Do not ever in your life underestimate anybody. I have a little story for you. There was this person in my class who I happen to have a crush on. So I consider myself a good public speaker. I'm not the best at social interactions, whatever, but if there's something I'm good at, that is public speaking. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I stumble upon my words, like right now. Sometimes I mispronounce words. Sometimes I forget what I was saying in the middle of a sentence. I'm not perfect, but I don't think I'm bad at public speaking. I think I have some sort of confidence when it comes to it because I've been practicing, you know what I mean? Like I have practice with talking in front of a camera, with presenting for class and stuff like that, practicing before presenting in front of people, like that's what gives me the confidence. But I still do not. And there have been times where I was the person who presented the best in a room or in a classroom or whatever. It has happened, you know what I mean? Like, if the bar's not too high or if people don't have that much practice or whatever, like when I was in middle school, I was the best one at presenting, in my humble opinion. And also in high school. Well, in high school, I only presented one time. Like it was miserable. But anyway, and there were times in my class where I was also the best at presenting. Like the teacher would comment on everybody's presentation, and they wouldn't comment on, and he wouldn't comment on mine. He would literally just congratulate me. But I'm not here to brag about that stuff. I'm not here to brag about that stuff. What I'm saying is that even then I was like, I don't think I'm the best one at presenting. I don't think I'm the person that like presents the best out of like the entire university or whatever. Because there was also a time where when I was congratulating for presenting well, I was spending a lot of time practicing for presentations. I was, you know what I mean? Like I was working for hours and hours. Like I was practicing and practicing and practicing, and I wouldn't stop practicing until I would get confident enough and until I would do it well enough, like well in a way that I would like it, and in a way that it would make me confident to then speak publicly. But then we had a bunch of teachers who were not that demanding after that, and they just didn't really care. They cared about the content rather than the form, and so the bar was lower. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna practice. I'm just gonna say the things that I have to say, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna practice it a little bit. I'm not gonna spend too much time because I also had other things to study. You know what I mean? And I also had to sleep and whatever. So I wasn't putting that much effort into that. So let's say my performance started getting worse, and I've never presented at like a TED Talk level. You know what I mean? Like I've never been that, because TED Talks and especially motivational speeches and stuff like that, it's not like a class presentation where you're informing a bunch of people about a certain topic. You are motivating people. You are capturing their attention, because at the end of the day it's entertainment. So you are getting their attention. You are giving dramatic pauses every once in a while because you really want to get your message across. It's not just information, it's a message. It's something that you want to get across. Like it's ideas rather than information. You know what I mean? Than raw like data, And I had a crush on a guy who was really good at presenting. I didn't know that he was really good at presenting until he started presenting. I was like, I mean, he's an extrovert and stuff like that. I don't know how good he is at presenting, but I assume he must be sort of good. And he was amazing at it. Like he was amazing. It was like TED Talk level. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like there was a time where I was volunteered to present, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna present first. I don't care if I'm the best, the worst, whatever. I'm just gonna get it over with. I'm just gonna do it. And I think I did it well. But when this guy presented, I was like, oh my god. You know what I mean? Like I thought I was bad at presenting after that. I was like, oh my god, my presentation was shit. You know what I mean? Like it was terrible. And what I'm saying is that I never took for granted that I was gonna be the best at presenting. I never took for granted, like I didn't know anybody in that class that semester. Like almost except for like 5 people I didn't know. No, except for 10 people I didn't know anybody else. We were 45. So I never assumed that I was the best at presenting. Just because I had been the best at presenting in the past doesn't mean that I'm gonna be the best at presenting today, right now, and forever. I never, you know what I mean? Like you never know. Every person has their own life, their own abilities, their own skills, whatever, and you never know what each person is good at. And this guy was so good at presenting. I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He's his own person, and he's an extrovert. Of course he was going to be good at presenting. You know what I mean? He was a fan of TED Talks. Of course he was going to be good at presenting. But the thing is, like, I never took it for granted. However, this guy, who was really good at presenting, there was a time when I think he and his friends were doing a group project, and I don't know if it was before or after the presentation. I think it was after. Like the teacher congratulated them for like presenting well, whatever. And one of his friends was also really good at presenting. Like he was very captivating, I guess, as well. And but he had like arrogant like undertones to his presentation. He was sort of presenting like, you know what I mean, like it's like presenting the iPhone, but like presenting like it's gonna be the shit, and you know it's gonna be the shit, and you're like, oh my god, what you guys are about to see is the best product that's ever been presented ever. Like this that you're witnessing is gonna be a moment in history. You know what I mean? Like it was that arrogant. But anyway, was it good at presenting? Yes. Was it arrogant? Yes. But anyway, the thing was that my crush made the amazing decision, the worst decision he could make, to Okay, I can't talk today. Also, I'm sick. He made the bad decision of underestimating everybody by saying that he was the best at presenting. He was like, he's the, well, I'm gonna quote it. I think he's never gonna watch this. He said he's the MVP or MVP. I think it's V, right? I suck at this shit. But anyway, so he was like, he's the MVP of presenting. And I was like, honey, watch. You know what I mean? Like, I almost wanted to be the next to present. Like, honey, I know how to do this shit as well. You know what I mean? Like, he had never seen me present. And I was like, dude, how the fuck dare you assume that everybody else sucks at presenting? Like, how many people in this room do you know? We are 60 right here. I don't know how many people you know. Let's say you know 30 of us or 40. What about the other 20? You don't know who we are. You don't know how well or badly we present or whatever. Why are you underestimating my ability? Now, did I take it personally? No, because it wasn't personal towards anybody. But what I'm saying is that you cannot, obviously people in your life are going to underestimate you. It's going to happen many times. A lot of people, like even the people who are depressed, like the people who are in severe depression, the people who themselves, I don't know if this is like taboo or not. I don't know if, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I censored the word. But the people who like, and have like thoughts and all these things, like I think a lot of the times people underestimate these things, like especially people who are very, how do you say it? Like people that don't really believe in like mental illnesses, like you're depressed, like what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like I think I know somebody, like I had a friend whose little sister committed, and I think that everybody in her family underestimated the depth of her depression. Like years before she started herself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many years before that. Probably 4. Like easily 4 years before that. And I was going through a depression myself, and I was like, I'm not myself, but I had the thoughts. I never did it, but I had the thoughts. My depression wasn't that bad. But what I'm saying is that if she is, I was in deep pain. I was like, she is in deeper pain than I'm in because she's doing that. So if she's doing that, it can happen. Like that can happen. And it ended up happening. And it's infuriating. But what I'm saying is that you can't underestimate what somebody's going to do what somebody's not going to do. Oh, they would never do that. How do you know that? How do you know that? How many thoughts have you had that even you're like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like I should never tell anybody because that's crazy. You know what I mean? How many, I don't know, how many opinions do you have that you're like, oh my God, did that just come out of my brain? Like did that thought really originate inside of me? Like you never know. Every person, everybody's mind is a whole universe in its own. You know what I mean? If you can't fully understand yourself, if you can't fully, let's say, identify your emotions, your motive, you know what I mean, the reason why you're doing things, right? How are you supposed to assume what other people are going to do, what other people are not going to do, just because somebody is a really good person and they've been, let's say, been good all their lives and had this like impeccable demeanor or whatever, it doesn't mean they're not going to stop doing bad stuff one day. It doesn't mean they're going to start being a rebel one day, you know what I mean? And I don't know, it doesn't mean they're not going to, like, let's say, move out or start doing drugs or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you never know what each person is going to do. You never know what each person is good at. You never know what, everybody has different passions. Everybody has different hobbies. Like, how do you know that I don't speak 6 languages? I don't speak 6 languages, but I could. If I was a languages nerd, I could. I learned English on my own. I could have learned another 5 languages on my own. No, another 4. You know what I mean? Like, it's these things. Like, how dare you assume that your buddy is better at presenting than everybody else? Maybe he's better at presenting than you, and you're really good at presenting. I don't think he was better. Like, I think they were kind of the same, but whatever. But how do you assume that no one else is good at presenting? You can't be the best in every room. Just because you're really, really good at something doesn't mean you're perfect at it. Perfection doesn't exist. Even if you're really good at something, you can always keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, perfecting it, perfecting it, perfecting it. And you can still make mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, the first video that I made, the first video or two, I don't think I stumbled a lot upon my words, whatever. And I think I did them pretty well. And there have been videos that I did later that I was like, well, I stumbled a lot upon my words. To stumble upon your words, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I have times where I'm like, wait, did I say that correctly? You know what I mean? Like, there are times where I mess up. You know what I mean? Just because you're doing something one day doesn't mean you have to do it better the next day. You know, we are human. We make mistakes. It's this human error. You know what I mean? Or this human error. Is that how you say it? I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what I'm saying is that how are you going to assume what people are good at, what people can do, what people can't do? You know what I mean? Just because you're the best at something in a room doesn't mean that the next room that you get in, you're going to be the best as well. You can't assume that people are just mediocre at things. You can't assume that everybody's an NPC. There are people who look and act like NPCs, but that doesn't mean they're NPCs. Maybe an NPC speaks 3 languages and you only speak 1. That NPC has a translation available in their freaking software of 3 languages. Do you have that update? Do you have that software? Do you have that USB attached to your head? No, you don't have it. This person has it. You know what I mean? Just because you're not good at something and you're driven doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have a natural talent or is driven enough to do it. You know what I mean? Just because somebody's quiet doesn't mean they're not doing anything. Just because somebody has a calm lifestyle doesn't mean they can't do great things or that nothing interesting happens in their life. You know what I mean? You never know what people are going through. You never know what people can do. You know what I mean? Like, you can't assume that you're going to be good just because you're good at something. You know what I mean? Or that you're going to be the best because you're good at something, or because you're the best in a room, or because you're the best in a classroom. There's so many people that I know who were really good students in, let's say, in primary school, in elementary, and they thought they were going to be the best at everything. They thought they were super smart, and then they go to middle school, they go to high school, and things start getting a little bit harder. You have to be a little bit more autonomous because you have to study on your own and stuff like that. And they realize that the people who are getting more mediocre grades start getting better grades, and these people, their grades started getting lower. And it's this like internal conflict, because it's like, I thought I was so good and I'm not that good, and I thought these people were idiots and they're doing so well. So you can't work hard, but do not compare yourself to others. Do not be like, okay, do not be like, oh my god, I'm gonna be the best at this, everybody else is gonna suck, whatever. No, you have to expect that there's always gonna be someone that can beat you. There can be somebody harder working, there can be somebody who looks better, there can be somebody who has a plug, there can be somebody who knows somebody, there can be somebody who's more charismatic, I don't know, or cool or whatever, you know what I mean? And they can beat you at something. The important thing is that you know your weaknesses and you know the things that you're good at or bad at, and you keep improving. You keep working on those things. You keep working on those skills, practicing. For instance, Joe Rogan, right? He has I think it's still the biggest podcast in the world, right? So even he said at one time, I don't remember, but he said that like every podcast episode, he keeps learning, he keeps improving, he keeps doing it better and better. And you might think he has like, I don't know how many hundreds or probably thousands already of episodes. I don't know how often he publishes, but like the thing is like, every single episode you learn something new, because every guest is different, every conversation flows a different way, you speak about different topics, sometimes you're an expert at something, sometimes you're not, so you have to adopt a different position in that conversation, if that makes sense. And you always, you know what I mean, like not every time you do something is it going to be the same way. You know, you can be talking about something you know a lot about. So it's like, okay, this conversation was kind of like cutting butter. You know what I mean? It was so smooth. And other times you can be talking about something you know less about. And you have to inform yourself and then do it. You know what I mean? And you're going to be less accustomed to use a certain sort of vocabulary, whatever. And you have to get comfortable with using certain words, whatever. You know, I'm just yapping. But the thing is, you can't assume what other people are good at, and you have to assume, for good mental health, you have to assume that you can't be the best at everything. There's always going to be someone that's going to be better than you, and if you happen to be the best at some point at something one day, that's cool, but calm down, relax, because it might not last forever. And even if somebody's better than you at something, who cares? Like, what do you care? Is it about being the best, or isn't it about like being fulfilled with the things that you do? because you can't be the best at everything. I tell you that. You cannot be the best at anything. If you really have the mindset, if you really expect that you can be the best at something, you're always going to face a wall, a very thick wall, every time you think about that, or every time you think that way. So, yeah, that was everything I wanted to say for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.